Module 6, Planning a Career Fair. Career fairs are a great way for students to check out potential employers and post-secondary options. You'll first need to decide what kind of career fair event you're going to have. Will it be a big event, or will you have several smaller events? If you can, try to have more than one career fair per year using different formats. As you start to plan, check with school and community staff to make sure there are not other big events that your career fairs will be competing with for attendance. These are just some of the things that you'll want to consider. Decide if you'll want to have a virtual career fair or an in-person career fair. A virtual career fair is an event that connects recruiters and students in virtual space like Zoom or Google Meets. Students can gather information and participate in scheduled sessions to learn about various organizations or sponsors and career opportunities without leaving the village. An in-person career fair is an event scheduled at your school or other community space where the presenters come to you. Students are able to gather information just like at a virtual career fair, but they can meet face-to-face with a more physical presence. Both types of career fairs are advantageous for your students to learn more about what they can do after high school. Both types of career fairs have similarities and differences for scheduling, promotion, technology, working with presenters, and student interaction. We'll help you prepare for both and point out some of the ways that you may need to differentiate as we discuss setting up hosting after your career fair. You will need to develop an agenda or some kind of schedule. Scheduling may be fairly easy if your principal is flexible with moving classes and times around during the school day. If you're doing this after school, you don't have to worry about students missing class to attend. For both virtual and in-person, think about if you'll have to set up multiple rooms with different presentations and who you want to invite to present. Find a place in the school that you can set up the career fair. A virtual career fair may only require a few rooms for students to see and interact with the online presenters, whereas the in-person career fair may require using the gym, the library, or other rooms large enough to set up display tables. It's also good to have a central hub or control center stocked with extra technology, markers, chart paper, or whatever may be appropriate to support your presentation rooms. One idea for in-person career fairs to plan that you don't need for virtual career fairs is a presenter's room. This is nice if you have guest vendors. The staff lounge is a good choice if it has a private restroom so they don't have to share restrooms with students. It's also good practice to have some food or snacks for them to visit away from their vendor tables. You may also want to create a vendor packet that you give to each presenter with the schedule, time limits, Wi-Fi passwords if needed, and any school policies that may apply. Promote your school fair. See if you can hang posters around the school or at the store, tribal office, or bingo hall. Send home newsletters and promote your event on social media. As you plan, make sure to include everyone, including the janitors and cooks. The kitchen staff may be able to help make snacks for the presenter room. If you have a culinary arts class, they may also be able to help by making snacks and showing off their skills. Take lots of pictures before and after the event. You can use these for planning and promoting your next career fair. You can also use pictures to spruce up post-event reports or newsletters after the event. Don't forget to make sure you have photo releases of all of your students and include a copy of your school's photo release policy with the vendor packet. If you're planning an in-person event, think about how you want to have your facility set up. Decorate your building to create a festive atmosphere by hanging signs and banners announcing the dates and some of the vendors you lined up. See if you can have vendors send you banners in advance to hang around the room as part of the decoration. Set up tables for your vendors with plenty of space for students to look at the front of the tables and private space behind the tables for vendors to place boxes or anything they might have brought with them. Make sure that they have access to power outlets if they need them. Provide 1 or 2 chairs for each table for your vendors to sit at when there are no students. Make sure there's a good flow around the room and that the students will not bunch up or bottleneck as they move from table to table. Many vendors will bring their own tablecloths with their particular logo, but it's good practice to have an extra table covers for vendors that may not have brought them. Try to have extra space if any vendors have models to demonstrate or may need a little extra floor space. If you ask in advance, sometimes military or other emergency responders can even bring equipment like fire trucks or helicopters to park outside your event. Discuss with your vendors what types of activities they may be planning during their presentations to students. Some vendors have breakout sessions that they use to increase student engagement during their presentations. If you are planning a virtual career fair, it's essential that you check with the presenter to find out what interactive elements, such as simulations, online quizzes, surveys, that they may be planning on using. Check with the technology person at your school, or better yet, put the IT person in touch with the vendor to make sure your bandwidth and other tech gadgets work with theirs. Try to test presentations, links, and online connections days before the event. In-person career fairs may also require technologies that are not usually used in your school or district, so it's good practice to request what technologies all vendors may have or need prior to the event to help with planning. You may also find it very helpful to invite another teacher or volunteer to assist with the technology, especially if this is for a virtual career fair and you have multiple rooms set up. There is no way that you can be at more than one place at one time, and with the technology, it's almost guaranteed that something won't work the first time. That's okay if it doesn't, and it may be an opportunity to remind students that if they're interested in careers about computers or online gaming, that it's good to develop problem-solving skills. Finding presenters is key to making your career fair successful. Having only 3 or 4 people for your students to talk to may not give them a wide variety of choices or options. Depending on when you host your career fair and if it's virtual or in person, may influence how many presenters attend. Industry representatives, college and military recruiters, and apprenticeship organizations may be very busy in the spring when there are many career fairs going on around the state. Refer back to Module 1D for some ideas for local, regional, and statewide employers, schools, military branches, etc., to invite you to speak with your students virtually or in person. Don't forget to invite people in your own community. You may be surprised to find out who has experience working on the North Slope, retired military, or many various and interesting careers prior to returning home to live in their village. Make a longer list than you think you will need and send invitations out as early as you can. I used to start sending invitations at the beginning of the school year for a career fair we held in the spring. One important consideration for an in-person career fair is that presenters will be traveling and will need somewhere to stay. Prior to planning an in-person event, make sure you have accommodations available and that you're able to support people coming in from out of town. Check with your vendors and presenters about what they will be talking about. This will help you as you build context for the upcoming career fair when talking to the principal, teachers, and community members. Find out if they have an outline and let them know if there's any time limit for their presentations. Work with them in advance and be clear about what you would like from them. Share the schedule of events with them, whether it's virtual or in person. Send some kind of thank you for your presenters, which may differ from sending them online thank you letters and certificates of appreciation if it was virtual, or having goodie bags waiting at their tables and sending them home with a thank you letter and some cool swag if they came in person. Whether the event is virtual or in person, make sure your students know the times and places they need to be for the presentations. It may help to have schedules printed in advance and signs in the hallway leading students to where they're supposed to go. For virtual career fairs, make sure the students have any required logins and passwords to access online presentations, if that is a requirement for them to do so. See if you can get some assistance from other teachers or volunteers to help with supporting virtual rooms. If possible, try to set up mock interviews during the career fair. This is an opportunity for you to work with students prior to the career fair on some of their soft skills and interview techniques. This also gives teachers an opportunity to participate by pretending to be potential employers to interview students. Work with the teachers prior to the career fair. Give your interviewers a set of questions and share with them some of the skills that you've been working with the students that you're hoping that they will see. It may be helpful if the teachers can use their own rooms for privacy and to keep the distraction down for students being interviewed. This, of course, will add to your list of logistics to schedule rooms and times for students to interview, but it's well worth the effort since all students can participate and recognize that these are important skills for them to have. Provide students with a career passport or a foreman clipboard or some other way for them to record what presentations they viewed, notes that they took, and things they learned. You may also want them to include questions that they have but didn't get a chance to ask. Make this an enjoyable experience for the students, whether the students participated virtually or in person. It's important they have fun. Consider this as a culminating event and an opportunity for you to create an atmosphere of learning that can only happen when a bunch of people come together supporting a large event such as a career fair. A career exploration trip is another way for your students to learn about careers in post-secondary schools. Traveling out of your home community can be very powerful for many reasons beyond students having opportunities to explore jobs in person. For students that don't get to leave their community very often, this can also be an opportunity for you to discuss skills that they may need to develop that are different from the ones that they need for living in a small community or village. For example, one year, taking a group of students to visit the Port of Anchorage, we had an impromptu conversation in the parking lot at Walmart about how it was improper to go up to car windows in the parking lot to peek in the cars. In a small community where students know everyone, this may be acceptable, but students have not had the opportunities to understand that this could bring them unwanted attention in bigger cities. These types of little lessons, along with the amazing opportunity to tour Tote Maritime Barge that's where part of a continuous stream of foods and goods shipped to Alaska, made for an incredible trip with my students. As you begin to plan any out-of-town trip, review the district travel policies. Some schools require students to be eligible, the same as with sports, and some schools recognize that some students who may not be able to maintain academic eligibility may be students that need this type of career exploration the most. After you identify the students that can go on the trip, you'll need to figure out if you'll need chaperones. Make sure that if there's a student with a gender different than yours, that you have an accompanying chaperone. Clarify and remind the students about what expectations for student conduct will be on the trip. Many district travel policies will include this information on the travel form. Work with your principal and school secretary to complete and collect permission slips for the students. Also, consider any places that you may go that need special permission. For example, visiting the Port of Anchorage required sending in identification for myself and the students a month prior to our trip. In addition to students having their tribal ID, driver's license, vaccination card, or any other required documentation, remind them to bring toiletries and clothing appropriate to locations you may be visiting. For example, it may be important for students to bring closed-toed shoes if you'll be visiting a construction site. Talk to teachers and remind students that they may need to bring laptops or books to complete homework if needed. You may want to bring some extra toiletries just in case students forget theirs. Many student travel forms will include a request for emergency contacts. Make sure to share this list of emergency contacts with your principal and your chaperones. It's nice to also have the phone numbers for your students to be able to text them while you're traveling. Identify how you will travel, by air, rental van, and plan accordingly. Check to see if there's someone at the school or district office to help make travel plans. Talk to the students about where they may want to eat and know in advance how it will be paid for. In some instances, your students or their families may not have enough money to go out and eat. Be considerate of this as you plan your trip. Also, ask your principal if there are funds available through any applicable programs, like the McKinney-Vento Homeless Children's Program, that can help with funds for students in certain eligible groups. It's possible that you and your students may need to fundraise for the trip or go to the school board to request funding support. Talk to your students about what types of careers they may be interested in exploring. I had a student one time that was interested in law enforcement, and we were able to get a tour of the Alaska State Trooper facility, including the State Crime Lab in Anchorage, and a private conversation for him with a recruiting sergeant. This would not have happened without having a conversation about what the student was interested in prior to planning the trip. After you get an idea of where you may want to visit with your students, determine how long you'll be able to spend at each place and what the students will do while you are there. Plan on how you'll travel from place to place and build time into your schedule for this. Also, discuss with your students what they may want to do in the evenings and what the expectations are. It may help to talk to coaches at your school and the chaperones to better understand what is done on other out-of-town trips. Review the policy with your principal for students to visit or be visited by family members that live in the town that you will be visiting. At the end of each day, try to meet with your students to share what they thought the best part of the day was and what they learned. It's also oftentimes helpful to find out what they would recommend to improve the trip for next year's students after you're done traveling.